Good morning, teacher. Good morning, guys. We hope you are really well. So today, my classmate
Daniel Gomez.
and me, Diana Gaona, we are going to talk to you about two very fundamental topics when writing a paragraph. The first is about quotation marks, and the second is about punctuation when using quotation marks. So I'm going to start by talking about quotation marks. What are quotation marks? Quotation marks are parts of punctuation that we use to identify quotations, direct speech, and to highlight special words and phrases. In other words, quotation marks are punctuation marks used before and after a word or set of words. For instance, I think selfies are the most popular kind of photo. I love cookies, except some. As you can see, we use it, that is to say, we use quotation marks before and after a word or set of words. When to use quotation marks? We use quotation marks to attribute ideas and words to the original speaker. In other words, we use quotation marks to show that someone else has said something. If we don't use quotation marks, it's what we call plagiarism, especially when we are duplicating someone's work. We must avoid that, especially in academic writings. First, we use quotation marks when we type or write the title of a book or a movie. For instance, Hamlet was written by Shakespeare. As you can see, the word Hamlet is in quotation marks because it refers the title of a book. Second, we use quotation marks to show the exact words someone spoke or wrote. For instance, the professor announced, "We are going to have an exam next week." Shakespeare wrote, "All the world is a stage." In these examples, we are literally expressing what the professor said and what Shakespeare wrote. Another example, John said, "I really hate when it's hot outside." We can write the same sentence without using quotation marks. For instance, John said he hated when it was hot outside. As you can see, there is a big difference in these sentences. The first sentence contains a direct quote, a quote in which we say the exact words John used. However, in the second sentence, this contains an indirect quote, which is a paraphrased version of what John said. So we must keep in mind that quotation marks are only used with direct quotes. Third, we don't use quotation marks if we are reporting what another person said. For instance, the professor said that we should study hard this week. This is about reported speech, so be careful with that. The most important aspect of using quotation marks is that once they are opened, they have to be closed. The person reading your work needs to know where the quote starts and where it ends. For instance, in the first sentence, we don't know where the quote ends. However, in the second sentence, we know where the quote starts and where it ends. The Art of Cookies is my favorite essay. On the other hand, it is necessary to keep in mind that there are two types of quotation marks: double quotes, which I have just explained to you, and single quotes. Single quotation marks are sometimes used to draw attention to a word. For instance, the word book can be used as a noun or a verb, and to translate a word. For example, she told him bonjour, good day, when they met. Now my classmate Daniel continues with this oral presentation.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Okay, guys, in this part, I'm going to explain punctuation when using quotation marks. So there are some aspects that we have to take into account at the moment of writing a paragraph or any kind of text. But let's start with the first item, that is the comma. Okay, the comma is the mark most frequently used to introduce word material. So here you can appreciate some examples. The flight attendant asked, "May I see your boarding pass?" Buddha says, "Even death is not to be feared by one who has lived wisely." So as you can see, we use the comma to introduce the quarter material. So it's fundamental to do it at the moment of writing a paragraph. And if the quotation comes before, he said, she wrote, um, the girl remarked, the girl commented. So then we use a comma and not a period at the end of the quarter sentence. Here you can appreciate some examples. Um, I don't care, he said. Stop, he said. We're going to have an exam next week. Announce the teacher. Diana, can you pass the slide, please?
Okay.
Okay. Use the full stop if the quarter sentence comes at the end. So here we have an example. The professor announced we're going to have an exam next week. So the quarter sentence, it's at the end. That is why we use a point to uh, ends what we write. And periods and commas always go inside quotation marks. So here you can see a good example. The sign said, walk, then it said, don't walk, then walk, all within 30 seconds. He yelled, hurry up. So you can identify it. You can appreciate that we use commas and periods inside the quotation marks. If the other item says to us, if a quotation is within the quarter material, a question mark should be placed inside the quotation marks. So exclamation points and quotation marks may come inside or outside, depending on whether they are part of the quotation or part of the surrounding sentence. So here we have some examples to clarify this point. She asked, will you still be my friend? Do you know who wrote Hamlet as the teacher? So here the question mark is inside the quotation because it's part of the sentence, of the quarter material. And in the other hand, do you agree with the saying, all's first in love and war? Do you know who said all the wars stage? So this part is the question mark is surrounding the sentence. That is why is after the quotation. Finally, we have another example to emphasize what I've been saying. She provides a thorough list of problems in her most recent article, Misery and Paradise. She doesn't provide a solution. So here we use commas and periods to emphasize what we write. Okay. In this part, we always capitalize the first letter of a word in a complete quotation, even mid-sentence. So capitalize the first letter of the word that begins a quotation. Here you can see an example. Lamar said, the case is far from over and we will win. So the first letter of the word the is capitalized to refers a quotation. In contrast, do not capitalize quarter material that continues a sentence. Okay? If an expression like she interrupts, she said, she commented, interrupts the quotation and divides the sentence, then we don't capitalize the first word of the part that finishes the quotation. Here we have two clear examples. Lamar said that the case was far from over and that we will win. next week, said the teacher, we're going to have an exam. So in this case, it's not necessary to capitalize the first letter of the word because it continues inside the sentence. Okay. On the other hand, use a capital letter only if the second part is a new complete sentence. Here you can see an example. We'll have an exam next week. Explain the teacher. It will take 30 minutes. So I is capitalized because it's a complete sentence, but it's connected to the previous one. And finally, if a quarter question ends in mid-sentence, the question mark replaces a comma. Will you still be my friend? She asked. So it's not necessary or recommended to use a comma because the question mark replaces it. So thank you so much for paying attention. I hope that you have an amazing day.
Bye.